Welcome to week 5 of the podcast, Like You Didn't Know. This week's scary movie of the week is Pet Sematary. There have been a couple remakes and then there was like a sequel, but I've only ever seen the sequel once. I've seen the remake a couple of times, but I still definitely like the original. Surprisingly, the remake sticks really well to the original for the most part. But the original is just, like, I think it's a Stephen King, I'm pretty sure it's a Stephen King movie, but it just, like, if you really like horror movies and haven't seen Pet Sematary, I would assume that something is wrong with you. But basically, it's about this, family that moves to, I guess, like a small town. The dad becomes a doctor in the small town at one of the schools. I think it was like a high school or something. And basically, they live next to this creepy cemetery, where people from the past to the present have gone to bury their pets. But like on the other side of where the pets are buried, there's like this Native American ground where, like, I'm not going to spoil it, but where like you're not supposed to bury shit over there, but people do anyway. I like it. It has a lot of twists and turns. The really jump out scares don't really come to the end, which is kind of nice in my opinion, because like when it's getting towards the end, that's when everything happens. But like I said, if you like horror movies and you haven't seen Pet Sematary, then what are you doing with your life? This week's ridiculous lawsuit is a man who sued Michael Jordan and Nike founder, because he was tired of being mistaken as Michael Jordan. So apparently this man in 2006, from Portland, his name was Alan Heckard. He filed a lawsuit against Michael Jordan and the Nike founder, Phil Knight, for $832 million. Half of it was aimed at Michael Jordan for having similar facial features, and the other half was aimed at Nike for making Jordan such a recognizable figure. So apparently Alan was tired for the last 15 years. He was tired of being mistaken for Michael Jordan. Why you would get tired of being mistaken for a famous person, I don't know, because I feel like you could get a lot of perks out of being mistaken for somebody famous, especially Michael Jordan. Because like everybody knows who he is. He could have got free food. He probably could have got free clothes, shoes, everything. But apparently to him, it caused him emotional pain and suffering, deformation, and personal injury. I'm assuming people must have tried to beat him up when they found out he wasn't Michael Jordan. I don't know. Maybe he tried to fight people when they mistook him for Michael Jordan. But either way, he eventually dropped the lawsuit. Smart, because it probably was going to cost him way more money than he ever would have seen to try to sue, especially Michael Jordan and Nike, because I imagine their lawyers are like top tier. This week's bizarre ways to die is a man who was crushed while moving a fridge freezer. I think they're basically referring to what we typically know as an entire refrigerator, where it's like a fridge connected to a freezer, or maybe it was like one of the giant like freezers that people have to like store stuff, like when they have a separate freezer in like their garage or whatever. But I mean, it's not surprising that anybody would die doing that, because I feel like even if you look on like Facebook and different stuff, you'll see videos of people moving stuff like that by themselves, trying to put it on a dolly, carrying it upstairs, whatever. Not surprising that it was a man, because I feel like men tend to, I can do it myself, I don't need help. Well, apparently you can't, because you might die. So don't do it. Ask for help or wait. This week's main topic is kind of sad, kind of makes, at least me personally, makes me angry. It gives me George Floyd vibes and all the BS that happened with that incident. But in case you haven't heard, there were 2 EMS workers in Springfield, Illinois, who basically allowed a man to die in their care, after they were transporting him, strapped to a gurney face down, or strapped to a stretcher face down. The that there was a man and a woman. The man's name was Peter Cadigan. He was 50. And the woman's name was Peggy Finley, who was 44. I mentioned their ages, because at that age, they were not new. Well, as far as I know, they were not new EMSs. As far as one would think that at 50 and 44, you should know better. But both were charged with murder on January 9th, for the death of Earl Moore, a black man, who was 35. He died on December 18th. Why we're just now hearing about this, I'm not really sure. But basically the police had called the ambulance to Moore's house, who was the victim, where he was in medical distress. Someone who was in the home told the officers that he was suffering alcohol withdrawals and having hallucinations. If you've been anywhere in the hood, out, period, you see people using substances. Watch TV, like, basically, unless you live under a rock, you've seen people engaging in, like, maybe not substance abuse, but definitely partaking of substances. So, I mean, it's not unheard of that at some point someone may potentially have, like, some serious ramifications because of it. But anyway, Moore died shortly after the EMS workers, again, placed him on the stretcher, face down, and placed the straps on his back and lower body. So essentially, he couldn't lift himself up even if he had been able to. He died of compressional and positional asphyxia due to prone face-down restraint on a paramedic transportation cot stretcher by tightened straps across the back. Damn near sounds like what happened to George Floyd, where this man had his knee on his neck. He couldn't lift himself up enough to breathe, on his neck and back pretty much, and he couldn't lift himself up enough to breathe. It was classified as a homicide by the county coroner. They just appeared in court Friday morning, so I guess that was probably last Friday. But they're being held in jail on a bail of $1 million each. They essentially face 20 to 60 years in prison if they are convicted. In my opinion, they should get life, because I feel like as an EMS, you should, EMS, EMT, whatever, like your whole position is built on saving lives. Like, you shouldn't judge the people who you're saving. I mean, if you're going to enter into it from a place of judgment, it's definitely the wrong career that you should be in. I cannot imagine an EMT showing up to a scene of a crime being, oh, well, you deserved it, so I'm not going to help you. I don't care if you got stabbed or shot by your baby mama. I don't care. You shouldn't have been in this situation. Like, that's not even, that's surreal to me that anybody that's in that line of work would have that kind of mindset. Like, I feel like racism, judgment, none of that has any place in any of that line for police officers, firefighters, EMTs. None of them should look at a person as anything other than just a human being that needs help. I mean, basically, to me, it's just like, I mean, I'm sure this stuff has happened in the past and we just didn't hear about it because nowadays, I mean, there's cameras. I don't think there was a video with this instance, but news crews are everywhere. People are reporting things that they're seeing, hearing, whatever. So, I mean, all this stuff is just coming to light. And it just makes you angry. It just makes you hesitant because, I mean, at that point, why would you even call them? Because if they're not going to help you, what's the point? But anyway, hit me up. Let me know your thoughts. But again, my podcast is called Like You Didn't Know, and I usually air new episodes every Wednesday or Thursday. And you can listen to it on Anchor or Spotify.